So good morning, gang. Whether you're joining us live, it's great to see Benny. Welcome, Benny, Cheryl, Kyle, Matt, Michael, Ruben, and for everybody else watching the recording. So this is day 5 of 5-day consciousness hacking challenge. We're going to talk about dream. See Kyle's chocolate dreaming. Jimmy just loving us talking about dreams. We're talking about beliefs and habits today, which is I think it's a really cool part of what we're doing. So we've been on this 5-day journey. We looked at capacity building, meditation, sleep and recovery. Then we moved into more pattern breaking, where we looked at patterns, and then we did a healing process yesterday for pattern breaking. Now today we move into paradigm shifting. So here we look at beliefs and habits, and this is where we start looking at, all right, how do you show up in this 3-dimensional reality? How do we start optimizing that? And what can we do to, from a consciousness hacking perspective, what can we do to hack that? Like, what do we know about the brain, the body, that we can use to influence it in a way that puts us in alignment with what it is that we're trying to create? And meditation helps us to get into alignment. Sleep and recovery is a part of that as well, making sure that we're rested and we're not getting. So if we're effectively rested, then we're able to show up. And then from there, it's like healing what is holding us back, taking the handbrakes off. And now we start looking at, how do I start architecting my life in such a way that's intentional, that's on purpose? So I'll just share my screen. How is everybody this morning? It'd be good to get a pulse in the chat. How are we all feeling? Well, it's morning for me, but it might be evening or afternoon for you guys. All right, so beliefs. Getting used to waking up at this time, yeah. It's a beautiful time of the day to be up. Something special about it, I think. Good for the circadian rhythm as well. So we're going to talk about beliefs and habits. So by way of review, yesterday we did, the invitation is to continue to do daily log, and I'm going to read them for you. Paying attention to where we can track throughout the day. So this is a habit that we're building. Paying attention, like the subtle attention to where we feel ourselves getting stuck, holding on, contracting. And then, observing the mind meditation, opportunity to practice that. Matt, 7:30 in the UK, feeling a bit tired. End of the day, time to wind down. Cheryl, I wish I could sleep in till 5:15. Usually I wake up around 4, if not 2 or 3. I think 4 is a beautiful time to be up. 2 or 3 depends. Obviously, all of this depends on when we go to bed. Making sure that we're getting effective rest. Thanks for the check-ins. It's good to know how everyone's feeling and where you are in the world. Go to bed late. Yeah, it's something that we could talk about, Cheryl. I think, like we talked about in day 2, if we're not getting effective sleep, we're shortening our health span and our lifespan. And it's not something to freak out about now. Using technology, we're able to understand what's actually happening across the key sleep metrics, and then put effective interventions in place so that we can get back on track. And some of that is often related to healing unresolved emotional wounds. So these are the little presents I have for you. So one's a a phone screensaver. You can see there. This one's computer wallpaper, and then there's just the map that I've been referencing. So I want to give you a copy of each of those. The screensavers are a reminder. We'll talk more about that, about who you really are. And beyond the narrative, beyond the dialogue, the conditioned experience, it's like who you really are. And I get, yeah, we have a 3D experience, but we're able to connect to an energy that's beyond that. And so this is the reminder. And I have a set of solfeggio frequencies, the 7 electromagnetic tones mapped to the chakras that I've created. There's no solid science on it, but it's suggested to have the power to help heal and raise consciousness. So there's a set of 7 of those that I've created at a significant expense that I want to gift to you. And so all of these are available in the Challenge Arena. So we're just checking on that now. Ivan's not here today. He's still leading the way. There's a little resource tab here that I haven't pointed to yet, but you'll see it. If you click on that, it'll take you to here, and there's a copy of the recordings, and the frequencies are there. And then there's a copy of the High Performance Guide to Transformative Tech. It's a beautiful run through a whole range of different technologies. It was included when you registered, but I'll put it there just in case you missed it. There's the map, there's the phone wallpaper, and then there's I Am Connected wallpaper. I hope you enjoy that. I really like the solfeggio tones are really cool. I really like the reminder on my phone. When I get caught in the mind, caught in the head, it's like, oh, that's right. This is who I really am. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. You're welcome. So Ivan's crushing it. He's meditating, which is a lot, which is awesome. It's the practice. He's knocked me off. You can see my meditation's dropped. Normally, this is my meditation time in the morning, and I'm not making excuses. I'll get back on track. But it's part of this is beautiful about tracking it is then we're able to see when we get out of balance, and so then we can come back into balance. Kelly's doing great. Jack, Katia, Haley, Kyle. Kyle, you've been doing some with the Muse. The Muse can take 24 hours to pull through, so it can be a little bit delayed. Matt, I noticed that. I did see your log, man. I haven't got back to you yet, but I will. So thanks for doing your log. Who else has been doing their log? Matt, I want to invite you to do it. The log is such a powerful thing. Like really, it's like an introspective look. And when you're sharing that with somebody else and getting somebody on the inside to support, it's so powerful. So yeah, please do play with it. I know it may seem like it's a thing to do, but like of the things to do, if you can do it in the morning, it's such a and they're all optional. You can so you can choose what you want to fill in and what you want to share. But the more it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you be really intentional and you think about it. But it's a beautiful practice to get into. Hey Ivan, take a minute to celebrate you, man. You're winning the leaderboard for meditation, crushing it. Well done, brother. Congratulations. All right, so gonna check in on that. So like I said, today we're talking about beliefs and habits. And so we're going to look at what is reality, what are beliefs, from a consciousness hacking perspective, what can we do about that? Who are you? And then we'll flow into like habits. And we'll touch very briefly on that. Obviously, like this is the model that we use in the Becoming Exponential program. We've touched very lightly on some of these. We do a deep dive into each one of them. And then we work towards applying each one of them as well over the intensive, which is 6 weeks. Obviously, and like I mentioned, it's a 6-month program, but the 6 weeks is really about driving deep and how do we integrate these into our life. And these do form positive lifestyle habits so that they support us to not only be on, but to be more aligned and authentic with why it is that we're here. But before we look at beliefs, what is reality? So we'll look at that. And the thing is, when we look at our waking reality, and when we look at virtual realities and where technology is taking us, there's some distinct similarities. The thing is, if we take away this, the human, does reality continue to exist? If we take off the headset and do we take off the haptic suits, does that continue to exist? Well, it doesn't for us. And so I guess in exploring this, it's like we look at, well, in the virtual world, there's a computer or a headset, and in our waking reality, in our organic reality, there's a computer or a headset. There's also a haptic suit, filled with sensors that help us to understand our environment, sense our environment. And the same in the virtual world, we're building haptic suits that make that world more immersive, and it enables us to experience different worlds. And I'm not sure if you've seen it. There's conversations around like, well, are we actually in a virtual world? Are we in a simulation? And Elon Musk has chimed in on this conversation. There's a cool video. If you Google Elon Musk, are we in a simulation? You'll catch the video. I won't go into it now, but in short, his response is that there's 1 in billions chance that we're not in a simulation. And he explains his point of view on that. I won't go into it now, but I find it all very interesting. So is it that we are already highly evolved and that we are having this human experience as a game, as something? And, it can seem like a far out belief, but there's been many beliefs throughout history that seemed far out at the time, which proved to be otherwise. And so it's an interesting reality that we find ourselves in. And when we look at our headset, like I said, this is a software hardware. It's our computer. That computer has programs that run that can be changed. And that's what we're looking at through healing our patterns. We're looking at now like paradigm shifting experiences. How do we break free? We talked a little bit about this. What are the things that we can do to shift the paradigm? And I'll loop back to that in a minute. But yeah, neuroplasticity. So we can change the programs that we're running. What I find really interesting from an evolutionary point of view, when we look at sleep, when we go into REM, the stage of sleep, which is the dreaming phase, the brain has to paralyze the body. So we experience muscle atonia. So the body's actually paralyzed so that we're not actually acting out our dreams, because the brain interprets the dreamscape the same as it interprets the waking state. And so for me, it's like, why did we evolve with that nuance? You would think that we evolved so that we would just know that it's a dream and we wouldn't need to be acting them out. So it's almost like we've evolved or been engineered to be able to experience virtual worlds in the same way we experience this world. I feel like that, is it just me that thinks that's wild? Like, why? So it perceives the data from waking and virtual realities the same. Who here, let me know in the chat, has had a virtual experience like in VR before? Yeah, Zenik, yep, you have. Cheryl, yeah, some really cool ones. Like check out Richie's Plank Experience. It's actually a Brisbane-based company, which is close to where I am. And it's essentially you walk out, you put your kit on, and you arrive in your environment, which is like a city scene. There's a lift behind you. Go on the lift. You press plank, it takes you up 60 floors. The door opens, and then you've got to walk out onto the plank 60 floors up. I love it because it really helps to show how the body responds, how the brain responds when you're in that environment and how real it feels. The intention is to walk out into the end of the plane and jump off. And I've seen some wild things happen when people get to that end of the plank, from people jumping into walls, giving themselves black eyes, to others just standing on the edge, just on the floor, of course, but their knees shaking, not able to jump because they're 60 floors up in there when they are, to then jumping off and then having that impact experience when you hit the ground. It's so immersive. The brain, 2% of the body weight, but it's a power hungry computer. And then the RAS, the reticular activating system. So the RAS, who is familiar with the RAS, the reticular activating system? It's a filter that sits on top of the spine within the brain, and it acts like a filter. So it's like it enables us to perceive threats. The best way I've came to understand it is, like, unconsciously we're streaming in billions of bits of data through our senses. And if we were consciously aware of all of that, we'd be even more overwhelmed than we already are. And we are, for the most part, a lot of people are overwhelmed. And so what it does is it filters out what's not considered important nor life-threatening. And so you can be walking along the street, and if a car suddenly darts out and it's going to hit you, it'll allow that through your filter, and you'll see it and you'll get out of the way. So that's important, right? The other thing is, like, what we've put our attention on, what we've learned about this reality is important for us. And so this is where goals are important. This is where vision boards are important, because otherwise it's screening out all the stuff that's not considered important. And like an example of this is, if you've ever gone to buy a car and you've done the research and on the car, and you go to that effort of learning around it and checking them out, and you hadn't seen them on the road before, but after you buy the car, you start seeing them everywhere. And it's like, because you've made it important, they're then coming through your RAS. The RAS lets them through your filter. So the important consideration there is, if being intentional about what it is that we want. That's why goals work. And that's, I showed Positive Prime yesterday, why that's a powerful tool, and we can work in terms of hacking our reality. Vision boards, that's why they work. Vision boards have their own shortcomings, because we get fatigue from looking at the same thing. Positive Prime changes the content every time you watch it, so it's new and fresh. Benny, I know you're very familiar with Positive Prime. Can anybody relate to the RAS and had an experiences maybe with the car or something else? Just let me know in the chat. It screens out what's not important. So if you don't become intentional about what it is that you want, then you're not going to be able to see it. It could be right there, but you're not tuned to be able to see it. Allows you to focus, and it's important. There's a great book by Donald Hoffman called The Case Against Reality, and how he sort of highlights of how we've evolved for survival, not truth. And our senses do not report objective reality. They report what we need to be able to survive. And so when we look around and we consider through our senses, our sight, we hear, what we taste, what we feel, we smell, it's shaping our reality constantly. And obviously what we looked at yesterday is pattern breaking and processing. That helps to shape our reality as well. And until we can heal those things that are keeping us stuck in that narrative, stuck in that story, we're going to constantly be reinforcing that reality. So that's why healing is so important. But then beyond healing, it's like, well, then who are you and what is it that you want to create? And we can start hacking that. Positive Prime's a tool for that. Being intentional with goals is a great tool for that. I shared this with you yesterday. It's a great piece of kit. It's why we included it in our Becoming Exponential challenge. We upload our own photos amongst what we call themes. And so there might be a theme around money, wealth creation. And so you put your photos in amongst there. And so then you're seeing your photos, and there's a whole range of different nuances in terms of I'll share a quick example. I think I was going to mention it yesterday around how I use Positive Prime. 2018, I wanted to go to the Transformative Technology Conference in San Francisco. I couldn't go because my son was graduating from high school. It was at that same weekend, but I was watching it live stream online, and I seen Jeffrey Martin, one of the founders of Transformative Technology, and Sanjay Manichanga. They were demonstrating. Sanjay is like the chief psychologist, psychotherapist for Transformative Tech, and they were demonstrating the V-light gamma stimulation, was a light stimulation on stage. And I'm like, wow, I'd so love to try that. It's incredible. And fast forward, I was running events on the Gold Coast for Transformative Tech, and I met Kim from Positive Prime, and I loved it, got it straight away, and she set me up. And I uploaded some images into the sessions on there. And I uploaded Sanjay's picture, I uploaded Jeffrey's picture, I uploaded Nicole's picture from Transformative Tech. Fast forward a month or so, I got a grant from, and so then I started watching it daily, 3 minutes a day. And then I fast forward a month, I got a grant from the federal government, $50,000 to go over and spend a month at in San Francisco at the Transformative Technology Lab. I got over there. They invited me to come down and stay at the lab, which turned out to be this 9-bedroom mansion down in Redwood City. So I got to spend a month there. I walk into the house, and who was in the house but Jeffrey Martin, Sanjay Manichanga, Nicole Bradford. And I got to spend like a month with them, playing with all the tech. I used the V-light gamma stimulation, the same one they had on stage a number of times. And it just showed up effortlessly, because it was, I obviously still needed to take right action, but my filter enabled it, was conditioned to be able to allow the experience. You can call it manifestation. I feel like, though, it's something that we can influence with tools like this. I was like, this is a little bit gross, I think, but I'll share it with you. I'm in Australia. We have different toilet systems in Australia. In the US, they have a lot of water in the toilet. Do I want to share this? This is going to be a little bit gross, but I'm going to share it anyway. I was, that night, I was like, wow, I'm so in the flow, like Positive Prime. This is so awesome. I did a poo, and my poo was like in a love heart shape. And I'm just like, wow, everything. I'm just like so in the flow. Anyway, that was, so the tech works, and it just showed up effortlessly. So 3 minutes a day, just watching that is really powerful. Then we got the haptic suits, it's biological, trillions of individual life forms. If you've ever watched molecular machinery on YouTube, where a cell, what's actually happening in a cell when it divides, one individual cell dividing, wow, the sophistication, the intelligence, the supreme intelligence that's happening there. Are you doing that? I'm not doing that. We've got trillions of these things doing their thing to enable this body. I get to occupy the body. I get to use the body, but I'm not the body. And there's trillions of individual life forms. And we have 5 core sensors that suggest there's a whole bunch more, but there's 5 core sensors and millions of receptors that receive and transduce signals. And so as we create virtual worlds, we're recreating this so that we can experience virtual worlds, worlds within worlds within worlds. Future is wild where technology is taking us. And animals experience reality in a completely different way. Some animals, like butterflies, taste through their feet. Others hear completely differently, smell completely differently, see differently. Some see like infrared. So animals have evolved to experience this reality in a completely different way. Interestingly, there was a research a while ago, I'm not sure if you guys seen it, but they found that there's actually taste receptors on a man's testicles. And it started this whole movement where people were teabagging soy sauce to see if they could taste the soy sauce through their testicles. It turns out there is actually taste receptors in the testicles, but they're not connected to the brain. And so it didn't actually work. And so there was just all these people teabagging soy sauce. Pretty well. So what is reality? Like we initially looked to like religion and faith to help us to understand, and then that to a significant extent let us down, and then we turned to science and the scientific process to help us to understand. And now it's more we're integrating science, technology, and reality to continue that exploration of what is reality. And the thing is that we don't really know what reality is. And that's, that's exciting. But there's things that we can understand about it that we can use to explore it and hack it. And that's what we're doing. And beliefs is one of those, like what we believe about reality is, what we believe reality is what it is. And so facts, opinions, faith, I've got this from a research paper. It sort of indicates that beliefs originate from what we experience. And keep on experiencing with others from when we were children and even before that. The sources of beliefs include environment, community, events, knowledge, past experiences, visualizations. The thing about beliefs is that one person can believe one thing and someone can believe something that's completely different. We look at the US elections, you got Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And so there's like a very definitive, I'm right, that we can align with. But so does that mean those beliefs are the truth? Beliefs are somewhat based on facts, but facts will change all the time. What we need to do is look back in history and we'll see, obviously that opening slide is of a flat earth. There was a time when the earth was considered flat, and then that changed. And so facts change all the time. And as we move into this new world of existing in virtual worlds, and where currency, I know for me, like I've got a 8-year-old daughter, and what she wanted for Christmas was real money changed into Robux so that she can buy virtual goods within Roblox. And so does that mean that that's virtual world, those virtual goods are less real? They're very real for her. Like she's 8, and by the time she's 20, she'll have grown up in virtual worlds. And so the future's wild. So what is it that we need to believe? And what I come to understand is that how we experience reality is changing all the time. It's evolving. But what is it? What's the ultimate truth in amongst that? Like, what is the thing that doesn't change? And this is kind of what I'm pointing to. And so what we do within the big thing that we're working towards in Becoming Exponential program is, sure, there's a conditioned experience and everyone experiences that different, which means that that's not the ultimate truth. But there's something that we can connect to that feels alive, that feels still, that doesn't necessarily change, that is like more whole. So it's shifting our identification from the narrative to a connection to the energy that's all around us, that felt sense of like knowing that who you are, feeling whole, and then start expressing yourself from that space. And so in that, we can start hacking our narrative, playing with the narrative, but not identifying solely with that narrative, because in this era of hyper change, that narrative is going to need to change even quicker and quicker. And if you're solely identified with that, we're going to continue to suffer. And so what are limiting beliefs? And that's part of what we're doing is like breaking and reestablishing beliefs, knowing that beliefs are just a mechanism that helps screen our reality. Beliefs are important, because they do help us to feel safe and they help us to build community. When we share beliefs, then it helps us to bond, but then those shared beliefs between communities have, throughout history, have caused conflict, lots of conflict. I think 100 million people alone were killed at the hands of other humans in the 20th century alone. And so, like, what is it that we want to believe? Obviously, a core part of that is healing the beliefs about ourselves that keep us stuck. That's like a core what we focus on. But then beyond that, it's like, how do we then, explore, like, what is the truth? Truth is what we want it to be. And when you've got like science and like leaders out there professing or suggesting that, and new information that's suggesting that the world's different than what we've been conditioned to believe from our immediate environment. I'm not sure if you guys seen it, but there was the Mexican president just a week ago. The president of Mexico posted on Twitter a picture of, I think it was, they call it Alux, ALUX, which is like an elf in Mayan history, in Mayan culture. He posted a photo of what he was saying was an Alux in a tree, an imagery. So if you Google this, you'll see it. And then a picture of the elf or the Alux from Mayan culture. He was indicating that it was actually a real sighting of an Alux. So is that real? Like, is that, if we all collectively believe it's real, does it then become real? The Pentagon, I think a couple of years ago, confirmed, like, they were asked by Congress to comment on UFO sightings, that their naval vessels and the aircraft was being tailgated by these UFOs, or they didn't know what they were, but they were being tailgated by them. And long story short is they came out and they confirmed, yeah, there's UFOs. They can't explain what these things were that were tailgating their planes. And so, are aliens real? If you believe they are, maybe they are. If you believe they're not, maybe they're not. We screen them out depending on what our beliefs are. So what is the truth? And what do you want to believe about you? So this is where, it comes back to us. And it's like, what is it that we want to believe? And so for me, like, as a consciousness hacker, I'm committed to exploring consciousness, and even consciousness with one S. It should be two, obviously. And so how we do that is, build capacity, building positive habits, sleep, meditation, pattern breaking, healing where we're sticking ourselves, and exploring ourselves, and paradigm shifting experiences. Like, how do we shift this paradigm? How do we shift our narrative? How do we be more of that which doesn't change, which for me, like, is the I am. It's the connection to the energy that's all around us, that's in us, that is us. That's the wholeness that we seek. And whether you believe this or not, science is suggesting that there was a Big Bang. Whether that was the beginning, it's still out for debate, but there was a Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, which was a point when we were all one unified point. We were all connected. And then in fractions of a second, that exploded in Big Bang. And then the building blocks for life, and eventually life itself, started to evolve to the point where 300,000 years ago, we became this form. But we're in separation. We feel separate. But ultimately, we are all connected. We are all still that unified point that has become everything. And what I'm saying to you is, you can feel that connection again. You can feel that sense of being home. And that's where we want to base ourselves as life continues to evolve at an accelerated rate. And we need to, otherwise, if we're stuck in the separation, we're going to continue to suffer. So it's feeling that wholeness, but then playing with the separation, playing with the narrative. And then it's in that, what can we become? Out of a 13.8 billion year evolution, we've only been in this Homo sapien form for 0.002% of that. And so if we are life evolving, if we are consciousness itself, perhaps being human is a limitation for what we can become. And I'm not saying I'm going to line up and get become transhuman, post-human, but what I'm saying is that I want to be ready for whatever is coming. And what is it that I can become, and how do my beliefs holding me back from what is it? What is it that I can truly become? And that may be a bit far out there for some of us, but it's like, well, who are you? Who are you? And so, and I look at it like, on one level, I am all these things. I'm highly sensitive. I've shared this sort of stuff. I suffer a lot. I'm the founder of I Am Connected, lead for Transformative Technologies Australia, mentor for the Academy. Spent a decade supporting people to build startups, to turn their ideas into reality. And I founded an incubator where we do that. I've been studying the inner landscape for 20 years. I am this story and I'm separate. But then on the other level, I have access to a mind. The mind is multifaceted and made up of many parts. We talked about the parts. And that exists virtually for me there. That's in my own virtual world. Richard Schwartz says, though, interestingly, that parts have parts and parts have parts. So whilst we have parts, those parts actually have parts, which is pretty wild. And of course, in an infinite reality, why wouldn't they? We can access them through thoughts, we can access them through emotions, and we learn to do that through the Becoming Exponential program. How do we relate to our parts? And how do we heal what needs to be healed? And we all have a multitude of different places where we are holding unresolved emotional wounds that form parts. Like I have a partner where she's in the US around San Francisco, where we process each other week on week. So I'm constantly healing and opening, expanding where I've contracted. And so unless we do this sort of work, we're living in our contracted narrative. We have access to a body. The body is made up of many individual biological life forms. I have conscious that I'm conscious. I have insights and intuition that guide me. I'm intricately connected to all of this and all there is. I'm both separate and I'm everything. And so if I'm only related to this and something here changes, and it will at an accelerated rate, and if you're looking for meaning, you're not going to find meaning. If you're looking for like who you are, you're not going to find it in this story. You can't think your way to it. It's about connecting to your inner landscape, the answers that we're all seeking out on the inside. And so, like, this is the map that I shared. If we are just living in this conditioned beta like experience, then it's a very limited way to live. And it's where we get overwhelmed and we get stressed. So it's learning consciously how to slow our brainwaves so that we can access these altered states. And it's in these alpha theta states that the absence of mind allows the internal voice, like our instinct, our intuition, to tune into that. So that's why doing our practice each day, meditation, becomes really important, because we're consciously taking our attention away from the noise that the world, the existing reality is creating, and tuning into the stillness. It's in that stillness you'll find flow and you'll be led, as opposed to trying to think your way. You'll be led. And like I've shared, there's closer, the more we slow our brain waves, the closer that we feel to this connection to source, that unified point of consciousness. And on the sleep side, there's ways that we can experience that as well. That unified point of consciousness, what does it feel like? Richard Schwartz, in Internal Family Systems, he calls it the self. It's the part that's compassionate, curious, it's clear, it's creative, it's calm, it's confident, it's courageous, it's connected. And yeah, it's all those qualities. And I feel like it's more than that. And the more that you tune into that, the more it feels like you are everything and you're nothing. And it's being connected to this and then being able to play with the narrative. And so in playing with the narrative, and then we look at, well, who has what it is that you want? And this is where when we look at starting to hack your three-dimensional avatar, who has what it is that you want? If beliefs are malleable and we can, one person's got one belief, someone's got a different belief, then it's like, what is it that they believe? And maybe then we need to, like, in terms of hacking beliefs, it's like, well, we need to believe the same thing that they believe. Because then I can have what it is that they want. If I don't believe what they believe, well, then maybe we can't have what it is that they've got. And then the same thing moves down into habits. What habits do they have? To have what it is that they have, but then I need to develop the habits that they've got. And so we realize that beliefs they aren't set, they aren't something that you have to consciously continue to live out if that's what you were conditioned with when you were growing up. They are things that you can change, whether it's parts that we need to heal, whether it's just exploring different experiences. And we do a deep dive into that when we go into the Becoming Exponential program. But for now, I just want to point to the fact that beliefs they can be intentional, and it's about becoming more intentional about what it is that you believe and who has what it is that you want. Looking at, well, what do they believe and what habits do they have? Yeah, so I just wanted to revisit the Becoming Exponential program. For those that are interested, it's a 6-month online program with a 6-week intensive. We talked about it yesterday. And I can only work with 6 people because it is a very intimate one-on-one relationship. We do come together as a group for the training and then the implementation of that training. I've had some people reach out to me, which is great. But just to recap, it's those we do a deep dive into those 6 core modules of the course. There's weekly group meditation training and tutorial sessions where we dive deep into it. To applying it, it's one thing to hear it, but then we need to actually look at doing the work for ourselves and apply it. Daily accountability and support through the log. Again, I can't reiterate enough how powerful that is. I understand there's maybe some resistance. It's one more thing to do. But again, it comes back to habits. What are the habits that you have? Are they supporting you to become the person that you want to become? Where are you in alignment? Where are you out of alignment with the person that you want to be? We do really weekly contraction release sessions, weekly mastermind get-togethers, and beyond that. So once we do the intensive, then there's the ongoing support and accountability processing in a group format to help embed it, to become it. Oura Ring's a really great piece of kit. Lifetime access to the Ion Connected platform. Like I said, like for me, when I look at that chart from the Big Bang, what I see is like we're a long way up this exponential curve, and this is what Becoming Exponential really is pointing to. Within the next 20 years, technology is going to evolve, short of some sort of global calamity, in a way that we can't even imagine what it will look like. And so for me, I'm committed to, this is the work that I want to do for the next 20 years, continue to explore consciousness, continue to expand, continue to heal, help others to do the same. And so as a platform, it's going to continue to evolve and we're going to get better and better at that. And so I really just want to be around a community of people that are doing the same. Positive Prime is a great piece of kit. I shared an example of how I use it. It's a great manifestation tool. it's not everything, right? It's not more than just like looking at a screen, because if we've got beliefs that don't enable us um, to see that, then you could be watching all the positive crime that you want, but unless you heal a core belief, a core wound, then it doesn't work. So healing's a part of it. One thing I didn't mention yesterday, if anyone does need a payment plan, I'm happy to offer payment plans as well to make it accessible to everybody. And if money is a problem and you really want to do this, then get in touch. Like, I'm happy to have conversations with you, because I want this for you. I want, yeah, I don't want there to be barriers. So please do reach out. Where to from here? So a few things. Obviously, we've been using the platform. I want to encourage you to continue to do your meditations in the coming, not just today and tomorrow, but ongoing. For those that I want to reach out to you all individually is what I'm going to do, and just sort of say, hey, where you are, what's important to you, and what do you need to get there, and how can I help? Beyond this is my signature program, but beyond that, I want to do that. So reach out to you all individually just to tune in to see where you're at. So the aura giveaway. So the final criteria for this, and I will announce publicly who's won in the sometime next week. But this is what is required to win. This is what so participation. So for those that have been participating, and there have been people that have been participating behind the scenes. Obviously, Ivan, you're crushing the meditation, which is great, and you've been answering questions and participating. That's great. So you're in good stead, but I'm not saying that that's it. So a video testimonial is what I want from you as part of this. I'm giving away from our Aussie dollars, it's like $520, $550 worth of kit. And hopefully you've got some value out of the last 5 days. I hope that, you've got at least one nugget that you can take away. And if you would, just do a short video testimonial on your phone that I can use to inspire others to join the challenge, essentially, is what I'm looking for. And I can send through a bit of little pointers that will help, but just a short 30 to 60-second video is just like, hey, I just did the 5-day consciousness hacking challenge. This is what I got out of it, and just be authentic and real. But then there's a questionnaire as well, and it won't be War and Peace. I just really want to know what you did value and what you didn't value throughout this. And so if you have done these 3 things, then you're in the draw to win the Aura Ring. Yeah. Big love to you all. I wanted to finish with a meditation called The Peaceful Place that'll guide us through. Is there any questions or any comments at this point? This is kind of like the end of the 5 days. It's been quite a journey, and I've loved seeing you all consistently show up over the last 5 days. And for those that have been watching the recordings, and I've been having conversations with you as well. Thank you. Anybody want to share anything? Nope. All right. What do I feel? I'm always excited, Zenny. The world is so difficult. I feel like the world is difficult, but the energy is everywhere. The energy is right here. You can't get away from it. It's like in you. It is you. And when you're connected to that aliveness, how it's happening in the world externally doesn't really matter, because you're already in the energy. And that's the thing. That's what I'm working towards, man, helping people to stop struggling, because we struggle when we're stuck in the story, when we're stuck in the narrative. Thanks, Kelly. I appreciate you. When we're stuck in the narrative, then there is a struggle. But when we're connected to the energy, there is flow, there's ease, there's love. But there's those qualities that Richard Schwartz talks about, but it feels like love. It feels like, what are the qualities? We've been doing like feeling in and meeting the moment. And as you meet the moment and you feel anxiety, what does that feel like? And so we just honor that from a place of consciousness. And as we do that, we realize that it's just energy, and it's the meaning that we place on it that causes the suffering. When we meet just the energy and we feel the energy, it's just energy. Yeah. If it's seeming like a pressure or hurt, do you help change the view, or do you think the energy changes? What I do is like I bring people to the moment. It's like, well, what is it in this moment? What are you feeling in this moment? Without going into the story around why it's there. It's like, I feel terror. All right. Let's just be in this moment and feel that terror consciously. Let's meet terror and just be with that. And in doing that, we're just meeting the moment. The world will do what the world's going to do. And the thing is, it'll be influenced. The more people that are just meeting the moment, guess what? The world will change all by itself. For me, it's like there's a big domino that will knock over all the other dominoes. And that is elevating human consciousness. And when we elevate human consciousness, we'll realize, and this is the work I'm committed to doing, is like shifting our identification away from the narrative, being caught in the story. The world is fucked. The world is broken. I'm hurting. It's a nasty place to be. I've been there. What I'm saying to you is there's a place outside of that where we can move to, which is alive. That is love. That is peace. And the more people we have moving to that, then the world will change all by itself. The reality that we find ourselves in, it'll change. There's more and more people. You know what? It's like that. If everyone agrees that Alux is real, does that make it real? If everyone is connected to the energy, then how does that change things? There was a time when Christianity was a cult, and the more people that agreed that this was important and it was a thing, and it became like a major faith, a major religion on the planet. But it wasn't always the case. It's like because more and more people believed it. And so as we connect more and more people back to the energy, back to wholeness, then it'll change. And yeah, that's the big domino. Elevating human consciousness. What does that even mean? It means shifting our identification away from the narrative and being caught in that, and reconnecting to the energy, reconnecting to that which is all around us, that is us. Like I said, it's like we're a fish in a fishbowl. You can't get away from it. But we've been resisting feeling all our life because no one's taught us how, and so we feel disconnected from it. And so as we learn to feel again, we learn to process sometimes the big emotions first. On the other side of that is what we're all looking for, which is that feeling that we are like the Big Bang. We are that unified point of consciousness, that singularity that in fractions of a second exploded into separation. And the gift is being in separation because we are whole. That's why that screensaver, put on your phone, remember, I am that. And at some point, it won't be just an intellectual, I am thinking about that. You do the work, whether it's with me or with somebody else, it'll be a felt sense of, fuck me, I am that. I am everything and I am nothing. I am the energy. Yeah. So peaceful place. It's a recording in the um, meditation series. We can do it now. Anyone want to do it now? Just guide us through it. It's really just sort of setting up a peaceful place in your mind. Otherwise, we can either do that. Otherwise, something else that I'd like to do is extend what we were doing with meeting the moment and feeling, like learning to feel again. So another thing we can do, we can do peaceful place. We can do peaceful place. You can do it by yourself. It's in the recordings. It's essence number 6 in the meditation. The other thing that I'd like to do, which would be my vote, is to just do a short meeting the moment, but then in being intentional about, all right, in this moment, let's feel anxiety. Get a sense of what anxiety feels like and what are the qualities of anxiety. And it's a common one. All right, let's feel overwhelmed. Let's get a sense of what those qualities are like. Let's feel fear. But then on the other side, let's feel love. Let's feel openness. And so we're learning what are the qualities of each of these things. And so then we recognize them more when we meet them in the moment. And then we can just honor them and just feel them for what they are without going into the story. Is it okay if you guys do the peaceful place in your own time, and then we do play with this? Because I feel like this is a big piece for us, is to learn to feel again. And I know we're right on 6:30, so some people will have to go, and that's okay. All right, cool. All right, let's do this. Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks, Ruben. Thanks, Mark. All right, so let's just close down our eyes. And again, like this is so powerful. It's like just meeting the moment. What are the qualities of this moment? And in this, we find that there's energy here. And sometimes that energy is contracted and it feels like fear. And so what are the qualities of fear? And whether you're feeling fear or not, let's just see if we can tune into the qualities of fear. Like, for me, it's like, a pulling away. Is it is an intensity to it. It's kind of close to anxiety as well. And it's a very contracted feeling. I don't, it's a not feeling safe. And it can be quite intense. But then we just feel it without going into the story, without moving into our head. When we just meet fear and we connect with the qualities, like, what are the qualities of it? And then you just feel it. It's the story that perpetuates the feeling. But when you meet just the raw emotion, and feel it, one of the things I often ask is, does it feel more intense or less? Most often it's less when we meet it. It gives us space, and in that we can catch a breath, we can breathe a little bit again. Let's just play with overwhelm now. Like, what are the qualities of overwhelm? It's like, for me, it's very much a busy mind. The mind is skipping from one thing to the next. So there's a lot of mental noise. And it feels contracted, it feels heavy. It's exhausting. feels dense. It almost makes me feel like I want to cry because the weight is so much. And again, when we meet that feeling, that emotion consciously, and just feel that without going into the story around why it's there, we just observe it. We just feel it without any resistance. Overwhelm. Oh my God, overwhelm. It's crushing. But when we're not pushing against it, resisting it, and just allow it, it kind of just washes through like a wave, an intense wave. It can feel really intense. But when we meet it, it's no longer unconsciously there pushing hard in the background. And in that, most often, is it more intense or less? Often it's less. And the beautiful thing is, like, as we do this, as we meet the moment, what does it do? It pulls us out of that busy beta brainwave state, drops us more into alpha theta, more into the self, more into I am, closer to that connection. So then we get our capacity back, capability. We start living then from that place as opposed to being caught, stuck in that narrative. And so if we were to then look at a more, a different quality, I was going to say a more better quality, but it's not better. It's just what is arising in the moment. It's just different qualities of energy. And so if we looked at openness, like if we felt, I had a client the other day and we're talking about, she felt open and we're talking about open. What is that? What are the qualities of open? Feels expansive as opposed to contracted. It feels like there's an ease. It's like it's a receiving as opposed to a pushing against. It feels light. It feels still, like there's an absence of mental chatter. And there's just a general sense of ease. And the thing is, we unconsciously, we will push against. I don't want to feel fear, anxiety, overwhelm. And so we're pushing against. And what happens when we're pushing against unconsciously? It persists. And we like, I want to feel open. I want to feel expansive. And so we're trying to pull towards. And it keeps us stuck. Both of these, like pushing and pulling, keeps us stuck instead of just honoring. The quickest way, because one of the things I've been pointing to is ultimately who we are is everything, that energy, the I am, and the qualities of that are the clarity, confidence, connectedness, ease. And so the quickest way to get back to this is just honor whatever is arising in the moment. And so when you feel overwhelmed or stressed, it's like just meeting it. It's like, oh, there's overwhelm here. Part of me is feeling overwhelmed, and just feel it without going into a story, without thinking. So let's one more. Let's just look at love. What are the qualities of love? Again, it's expansive as opposed to contracted. feels light. There's a tickling in my stomach and it flows all the way up from my stomach right up through into my head. There's the absence of mental noise. There's an ease and stillness, there's an expansion. There's an outwardly just wanting to share it with those around. This is what it feels like, for me at least. Feels like the qualities of I am, feels like the qualities of the self. There's insights, there's just a general sense of knowing that everything is perfect the way it is. Not needing to try to change anything. In my experience, as we meet the moment, continue to meet the moments as they are arising, this is our default state of being. We can't have this without feeling the others. It's the trap that we fall into. We learn to consciously meet all experiences. And where we feel contracted and stuck in the negative experiences, then there's healing to be done. We release that contraction. We're stuck. There's a part of you stuck in a narrative and it's suffering. And so we meet that from the place of love and compassion. We meet that part of ourselves and we meet ourselves in the moment. It's like, hey, I see you. I understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. I am here now. So we learn to meet ourselves, our parts in the moment. And no one can give us what we needed when we needed it, except us retrospectively. And this is the practice, learning to meet ourselves in the moment so that we can be more of that feeling of love. Not just that feeling where when you're everything, you got to feel everything. Everything is in consciousness. So the practice is bringing our attention internally. What we're looking for is in here, it's not out there. The world will change when we change. Like I mentioned, I'm going to reach out to you all and just sort of see where you're at and see how I can support you in your journey. And that might even just be giving you a virtual high five and a virtual hug. But if there's a way we can continue to journey together, I would love that too. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. It's been great to be on this challenge with you. So much love. I'll send through a wrap up. I would really appreciate any video testimonials, as I said, but I'll detail that. Yeah. Love you, man. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody. Zenik, Matt, Ivan, Cheryl, Mark, Kyle. Thanks, guys.